started. All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our Smart PA 2025 launch webinar. My name is Matt Minner. I'm the Managing Director of Technical Services at Catalyst Connection. And presenting with me today is my colleague, Sean Furman with MRC. How are you doing today, Sean?
Great, Matt. Thank you. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. We're very excited for today's webinar. And so let's go ahead and jump in. And just for note, again, we're recording this webinar, so you'll be able to access it on demand. If you have any questions, feel free to use the chat function, to drop those in. We'll also open up the line here. We've got time reserved for questions at the end, or if you have one of those questions that you just can't wait and a burning question, feel free to unmute yourself and jump in as well. And we'll be watching in both respects. So let's go ahead and dive in. So first, what we're going to talk about today, to set the stage for our Smart PA overview, that's really the program that we want to inform you all about. We're going to cover a little bit about really why smart manufacturing. What are the benefits? What does it mean? What really is smart manufacturing? Then we will dive into our program and the resources that are available for small and medium manufacturers across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Touch on a few case studies for myself and some additional colleagues across the state. We'll also be touching on some workforce training opportunities that are really exciting that Smart PA is bringing to the market that will be available to you. And we'll touch on, hey, you're interested now, how do you get started? And then, like I said, we will have some time for questions. So to start with that, why smart manufacturing? My partner here, Sean, will be taking the lead on that. So Sean, you want to go ahead and jump in?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Matt. So good afternoon, everybody. As Matt mentioned, my name is Sean Furman. I work for Manufacturers Resource Center over in Allentown, Pennsylvania. I have 22 years of experience working in manufacturing, and all through my career, all through all my different positions, I always had my hand in automation at some point with the 3 different companies that I spent time with. So yeah, smart manufacturing. What separates smart manufacturing from just having automated processes in the shop floor? So, one of the key things is smart manufacturing is you're using data to make decisions, and you're not using your gut feel, and you're not guessing at what the solution is. You have data that helps to drive you to the right place. And one of the things that you see with manufacturers in this first bullet is there's disparate systems that we'll call islands of automation. They're disconnected. They're not talking to each other. They're not sharing information out to other pieces of equipment. They're not sharing information out to workers or out to executives that need to know what's going on to make better decisions for the business to be successful and more productive. Manual data is not a value-added activity. So you have somebody out on the line with a clipboard, writing in pen and paper, doing their quality checks, doing performance data recording. They're going to take that and hand it to somebody who's likely going to type it into Excel or into an ERP system. So really not value-added work. So smart manufacturing takes that manual data entry away and puts it into a usable data format that you can do something with. Data-centered automation is just as valuable as physical automation. And what we mean there is, let's say you have a process that's very, very labor intensive and you automate it. And you basically are making somebody's life better at work, right? They're not having to do all this repetitive motion. You're getting rid of ergonomic issues. We want to think about the same with data and making sure our data is structured so that we can do something with it and use it easily without having people to move data between different databases, different data systems. So how do we build a data collection system that's centralized and easy to access by multiple systems? So imagine having a centralized market where all of your data is, and you have all these subscribers or shoppers that can come in and subscribe to the data they need and get the information out of it that they need to be successful in their roles. And then efficient improvement is contributing to getting more done with your workforce, right? You only have so many hours in a shift, so many hours in a day, so many hours in a week. So the more efficient you are, the better your business is going to be, the more work you're going to get done, and you're going to be more productive. Matt, anything to add there?
Yeah, yeah, no, that's exactly it, Sean. Yeah, I'd really just say a lot, and we say, yeah, it's just as valuable as physical automation, because a lot of times the, robotics and other pieces, that's more visible. You see these practice, whether it's,
Yeah.
hazardous operations or repetitive motion that you easily see when you walk the floor in your shop. A lot of times these data centered pieces, the ones where someone's manually entering data, it's happened back at somebody's desk. And unless they're saying, hey, isn't there a better way? It's easy to fly under the radar. But the benefit and the return that you get for that type of, digital automation, the digitization sometimes is, or oftentimes is much greater, because it's
Yeah,
less
and the
investment and it
decisions,
makes just as big of an impact.
yep, and your decisions are only as good as the data is, right? So if you don't have consistent data, you don't have real-time data, you have data sets with huge gaps in it, that's really taking away from the value of that data.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So smart manufacturing, let's look at a definition of what smart manufacturing is, and I'll read right from the slide here. So smart manufacturing is the information-driven, event-driven, efficient, and collaborative orchestration of business, physical, and digital processes within plants, factories, and across the entire value chain. So what does all of that mean, right? So information-driven, we're focusing on making informed decisions based on accurate data, which that we just talked about. Event driven, we're looking at what events are happening that are creating the current conditions in our factory floor, how we're performing, and being able to react ahead of time before something happens, be able to recognize that our data is trending in a negative direction, efficiently doing it, right? Whether it be somebody analyzing the data, somebody collecting the data, let's take some time out of the analysis and free up resources and be able to solve problems quickly and solve if you solve problems quickly and you improve your operation, you're saving energy. From a collaborative standpoint, we have a constant read on the plant performance and the ability to resolve issues proactively. I just touched on that. And we talk about business, physical, and digital processes. That's what we kind of call Industry 4.0. And that is the cross tie of information technology and operations technology, where we're lumping them together. And it's the world has become much easier to tie your shop floor into your information systems to be able to gather that data and do something actionable with it. And lastly, we're using all of this data. At the end of the day, it all ties together to help us extend the optimization of our entire supply chain. And from supplier to shipper and customer, that's what all of this is about, adding the most value to our customers.
Yeah, no, that's right, Sean. And one thing to highlight, notice some of you may be familiar with an organization called SESME. It's the Clean Energy and Smart Manufacturing Innovation Institute, one of many manufacturing institutes across the country, and they are one of our valued partners in this program. And when we get into the program overview, you'll see just the scope of the partners that we have involved in this program. But just to highlight, this is their specialty areas, so we're leveraging a lot of their resources as well that they've made available to our program as well as many others across the country.
So I love this chart that Matt found. I'll give you credit, Matt, here on this. But as we look at this, and we can look at this as like time from left to right, and we can look at it as complexity from left to right. And trying to be adaptable and have predictive capacity 15, 20 years ago would have been very, very difficult and required a very heavy lift by a bunch of specialized individuals. So if we start and look at number one, the computerization, we're lumping in computerization into here because we just don't want to call it automation. So you have your shop floor physical automation, automating processes, pieces of equipment. But you also have the advent of ERP, MRP systems, these software systems where you're starting to computerize some of your business transactions. Following that is connectivity, being able to connect systems, those disparate systems, to one another and have them be interlocked with each other, work in lockstep with each other. And that's stuff that's been pretty much around since the advent of automation. A big shift happened probably in the early 2000s is visibility. So we're starting to look down through our systems and be able to see what's going on with our islands of automation within our factories or manufacturing environment and see what they're doing and how they're performing, which then led to, what's happening and understanding what is actually happening in my process and how is it impacting my process and how is it impacting my performance. And then next up, that we're, I would say in the last 10 years, maybe even the last 5 years, we're into more of a predictive capacity. Okay, I see this trend, and this trend is heading in a direction that's not going to end well. How are we prepared for that to happen? And an example of that would be predictive analysis devices for condition monitoring for a maintenance manager using vibration analysis, using temperature analysis. And then lastly, adaptability and how can automation or how can automated decisions be communicated to you that, hey, something needs to happen. You don't have to go back and look at the trend. There's AI or some other statistical software that's looking at your trend and saying, hey, you're headed out of control, and it needs to tell you that you got to do something about it. An example of all this is, so let me back up. None of this is brand new. So very early on in my career, I worked for a large company, and we had transparency on an iPhone 2 in 2008, 2009. So we were monitoring multiple production lines, but we had a staff of a bunch of dedicated, really smart people burning a lot of hours to get the data from step one through step two to all the way up to step four, where somebody could have their production lines on their iPhone to see how their production was running and how it was performing. And now where we've moved to, and it's a lot easier to do that. So there was a lot of custom developed software then. That's kind of going out the window now. That's what's been a beautiful thing about Industry 4.0 is that it's really creating standards for us to operate to and develop systems and design systems to, and not just automation for pieces of equipment, but how we collect our data, how we analyze our data, and how we protect our environment. How do we apply cybersecurity to all of this and make sure that we're protected? So again, this is a very great slide that paints a very powerful picture of how we've grown in the manufacturing world from just having simple computerization or automation on the shop floor to where we're headed today with AI.
Yeah, and it can easily look a little bit overwhelming, so many steps, but we can also look at this from a different perspective, and that really it's these first four that we're working to just gather information, gather that data, and make it accessible to be able to leverage and then make those decisions. So starting from the information stage, moving on to more of an intelligence approach, to lastly where you have some level of autonomy. So there's you can really simplify it a little bit, that really all the computerization or digitization, however you want to look at it, the connectivity, visibility, and then making it not just visible to the select few, but visible to anybody who needs it, and understanding what's behind that information. That's really a big piece of those chunks. And like Sean said, that's what's becoming a lot more readily available through easy to implement systems. And that's a lot of where smart manufacturing is going.
Yeah, and if you haven't done 1 through 4 yet, that's what we're here to help with, right? We're here to help you get from 1 to 4, and so then you can then turn around and enable 5 and 6, which is being able to analyze the data and then apply some sort of statistical algorithm, artificial intelligence, whatever it may be, to help you make smarter decisions quicker. So
Absolutely.
how can smart manufacturing help your operation? We'll take a look at it from a tactical standpoint. So right off the bat, ergonomics. I think anybody on this call knows that somebody doing a pick and place operation all day long is rough on their body. And we could easily replace that position with a robot, whether it be collaborative, industrial, whatever it may be. And then we have automating of hazardous processes. So let's say you're doing a lot of chemical cleaning. That's something that could be automated very easily. From a quality standpoint, you can monitor your specs of your equipment, whether you're machining something for a fighter jet or you're producing donuts, right? You can monitor the quality of your product much easier with these connected systems and being able to identify and recognize an issue sooner. And really, you can improve the repeatability of your product. Product A to product Z is going to be the same no matter what. From a delivery standpoint, you can always be monitoring your asset performance and understand when your assets are underperforming. And again, make actionable decisions against when you have those lagging performance indicators that are in your data. And really, again, enabling real-time data so you can speed up how quickly you're solving your problems. And from a cost standpoint, all of the improvements in safety, quality, and delivery really do roll up in cost through improved energy efficiency and the reduction of waste from defects that you're producing, scrap, and overproduction. So really we're taking the 8 main streams of lean and boiling them into these 4 buckets.
Yeah, and what we're really trying to show here on this slide and the next slide are really just general opportunity areas. It really covers the spectrum of your entire operation, the opportunities, and it, certainly this is not an all-inclusive list. There can be things that would benefit your operation that aren't listed, but or that with some assistance, you could identify those and be able to prioritize. And that's really where a lot of the technical assistance that we have that we're going to, get into can bring some benefits and something that's available through the program at low or no cost.
Absolutely. And then from a strategic standpoint, how can we apply smart manufacturing to this SQDC model again? So from a safety standpoint, we can monitor an environment to predict a hazard or a hazardous condition that's about to happen. There's been the development of area scanners where you can help isolate your team members from equipment and make equipment slow down before a team member could potentially become injured. And you can also improve product safety, right? There's people safety, but there's also product safety, making sure that you're not doing anything to your product that could be hazardous to the customer or the consumer. From a quality standpoint, this is a huge one, right? Lot tracking. You have these job sheets that you're printing out and putting on a clipboard, and they get passed from station to station to station through your manufacturing process. All kinds of opportunity for missed data collection, errors with data collection. Anything that can happen with a piece of paper, you have risk, right? So with smart manufacturing enabled, you can do electronic lot tracking, help you with mock recalls. You can interlock disparate systems together to make sure a reject doesn't go from one station to another. And also it can help with training. Training is kind of a missed topic in automation, but there's all kinds of really great developments in training that tie into automation and smart manufacturing, where it could be wearables, it could be augmented reality, it could be virtual reality, or some combination of both, where you're being trained and being quizzed as you're going through your training, and you're not taking a individual off the shop floor to carry out that training. And then you can do, you can scale up, scale down your processes and actually do some simulation, which gets into digital twins, something that we'll maybe touch on in a future webinar. From a delivery standpoint, back to real-time data analysis, quick turnaround on root cause analysis, innovation and testing. Imagine if you did have a digital twin, which I talked about just a second ago, a simulation, you have a digital representation of your process and how it operates. You could use that model then to try to develop new products or new processes to support your operation. And a big one is inventory accuracy, right? How many people are doing cycle counts once a week, maybe twice a week, once a month, whatever it may be. You know, enabling smart manufacturing really helps you understand your inventory, not just raw materials, but finished goods as well, and understand where everything is and how much of your raw materials you're consuming against a production run. And lastly, from a cost standpoint, you can get real-time supply chain visibility end to end. Again, being able to see what you're receiving from 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 your suppliers, and then being able to see what you're sending out to your customers. And you can tie your systems together, and that's a little more in-depth topic, but that capability is out there. And then once you've done this and once you've got some momentum going, you can continue to grow through the use of smart manufacturing in your processes, because smart manufacturing isn't going to go away. The innovation isn't going to stop, and it's going to continue to be more and more valuable to use and easier to use. So,
Very good. Thank you, Sean.
you're
And
welcome. Yeah, so some principles here, and this is a really nice graphic as well, because to me it ties into the Industry 4.0 cycle. And those of you not familiar with Industry 4.0, I'd recommend taking a look at it after this webinar. But I want to start in the top left with the proactive semi-autonomous circle. And to me, that's the most important thing about automation. It's semi-autonomous. No automation is self-sustaining. If you think that artificial intelligence is self-sustaining, you're incorrect. AI is never going to do everything for your business. It's not going to make every decision. A human needs to be involved in any automation that you do, whether it be training it how to work, determining how it needs to work, monitoring it, maintaining it. We always need people involved. So that's a key thing to keep in mind as we talk through this. The next topic, I'm going to go to the right here, interoperable and open. So what that means is we're getting rid of what I would call a black box solution that 2 or 3 people develop and they know how to work on it. Those solutions are kind of going away, where we're developing to open standards. And there's organizations out there like the ISA, that develop standards for everybody to use. You, me, big manufacturer, small manufacturer, it doesn't matter. There's focus on sustainability and energy efficiency, focused on cybersecurity to make sure you're not getting ransomware in your business systems or down on your shop floor. Making sure that your systems are scalable, and as you get bigger or smaller and you need to change, you have that opportunity to redeploy those assets or that solution to whatever it is that's new that you're developing or coming out with. They're resilient and they're orchestrated. Everybody's talking together. Everybody's using the same master data, if you will, where there's one owner of your data and everybody's looking at that same data source, and everything is flat in real time. So what that means is, all this information is there, and am I digging through tables and tables and tables of information and going down? Everything is on a flat table there in front of us to see and do something with.
yeah, so this really highlights what are the parameter, or what makes a smart manufacturing system, and that it's not it may look a lot of different ways. There may be specific areas within smart that are a good fit for you, or certain applications, but these are some of the general principles that you would really make up that smart manufacturing system.
So here's some typical use cases. Again, none of these use cases are earth-shattering. They're not brand new. They're not rocket science. But what I will say is there's within each of these areas, there's been significant advancement over the last 10 or 15 years in the ease of implementing each of these cases. So whether it be machine process monitoring and condition monitoring, there's industrial Internet of Things, IIoT devices that are wireless that you could slap on a bearing and be able to monitor temperature and vibration without having to run conduit and wire, and be able to tie that into a database and, again, do something with it. Automated quoting, right? You have a job system that's tracking all of your jobs and, taking all the sheets, the job tracking sheets that are going through your shop floor that somebody, again, is taking that data and typing it back into the system. Being able to do that basically touchless and put a job in and say, hey, this is this job for another 5,000 widgets that are similar to another job we ran a couple of months ago. That makes your life a heck of a lot easier being able to do that. Digital twin is basically a manufacturing workflow simulation. There's been simulation software packages that have been offered by, some PLC industrial control companies. They're very clunky, very hard to use. That is changing and that is improving. I don't think it's ready for prime time yet, but it's coming. Data visualization and dashboarding, again, that's nothing new, but there's standards out there provided by ISA 95 of how you should organize your dashboard, what visualization is important to the operators, and what makes it most impactful to your operation. Systems integration, like we're tying together all of the different islands of automation so we understand what's going on across the entire environment, the ecosystem that we're monitoring and managing on a daily basis. And how is everything working, not just each individual system. And then lastly, there's our physical automation, and that's getting rid of the risky jobs, the ergonomically challenging jobs where somebody is having to do a lot of work, physical strain to complete a work over the course of a day. If we look at the example at the bottom, there's a collaborative robot there loading a brake. I believe that's probably a sheet metal application. So we're not taking the job of a person. What we're doing is we're allowing somebody to set that robot up and, load a table with sheet metal and put it into a press brake. And they can go set up another job or do something else that's value added to the company.
Yep, exactly. And so we've kind of gone a brief overview of smart manufacturing, ending with some example applications, some typical use cases, and we will circle back. We have a few case studies that will highlight a few of these and how they were leveraged by manufacturers. It may even be done, or there may be projects that are yet in process that we're giving you some insights to. So with that, what we want to do is shift a little bit, because really the overall focus that we had today was to bring to light and highlight the Smart PA program that's now available here in Pennsylvania. And so that's what we're going to dive into now, is just give you a little bit more background and show really what are the benefits that you can gain as a small manufacturer in Pennsylvania. So the Smart PA program, this is funded by the Department of Energy and in conjunction with the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development. Catalyst Connection is the lead organization on the program, and then working together with all of our sister organizations across the Pennsylvania IRC network. And you can now see, if you weren't yet familiar of the 7 organizations, you see how we have it's a regional structure. And there are a couple other important partners that are involved. The first being a Digital Foundry, and you can see noted there's going to be some significant smart manufacturing training that's going to be available to manufacturers across the Commonwealth, and our colleague Sherry McCleary will be sharing about that shortly. And in addition to training that can be available through all the IRCs and some additional resources, all geared towards advancing smart manufacturing in your operation. That's really the spirit of this program, as the name implies. And as such, one of the other supporting partners is SESME. I had previously referred to them, the Clean Energy and Smart Manufacturing Innovation Institute. They are a Department of Energy institute, so it certainly makes sense that they are a key contributor to this program. And as I mentioned, this is a state-run program, and there were 12 awardees across the country, with Pennsylvania being one of them, and Sesame supporting all of those. So this is an initiative that's going on really across the country. And just one thing to highlight for you is you'll hear small, medium manufacturers referenced often. And the way we define that is 500 employees or less, but at the location of interest. So you may have a larger corporate structure behind you, but say you're a smaller operation, you have 200 employees, 50 employees, whatever the number may be at your particular location that is located in Pennsylvania, you're still eligible. So that's the way that you want to consider it. So just because you may have a larger name doesn't mean that you don't qualify for some of the resources that we have available. So one of the first ways that we tend to get started with these types of programs is from an assessment standpoint. Oftentimes manufacturers are familiar, like you've surely have heard smart manufacturing before. Maybe we're more familiar or maybe less, but often I just say, I heard a lot about it, I'm interested, but I don't really know where to start. And that's where we have no cost assessments available, starting with really the first step to engagement with the program and various resources we have is our online self-assessment. Takes not but 5 minutes, and then you receive a customized feedback report and a manufacturer's guide to smart manufacturing ebook. Just note we are still finalizing a couple of things on that ebook, so it's not quite available yet, but anyone that completes the assessment will send that out once it is available. But it's really a great way to engage with your local IRC. That'd be your local center, your Catalyst, Northwest IRC, Mantech, or others. And that would be that initial step in. And then there are some more more engaging, if you will, some on-site assessments that we can do at no cost, be it from overall advanced technology opportunity assessment. That's where we take a broad look, and it's not focused on any one technology, and looks across a number of different aspects in your operation and business, to narrow focuses on a robotics assessment, or we also have some lean automation assessment where we really tie the lean principles in with technology. So a lot of different opportunities there. And all those assessments, I mean, that's the assessment in and of itself doesn't really provide you anything. It's really what are the opportunities and where are the areas for improvement or expansion in your facility from a smart manufacturing standpoint. And that's where our technical assistance offerings come into play. And this is all done through our IRC partners. We can, whether it's services that we as the center provide or the third-party network. And you see a lot of the example technology or project areas below. It's by no means an exhaustive list. So it's really the litmus test. If there's a project you're working on that is advancing your smart manufacturing efforts, that is something that we can support under this program. I say be it at no cost, low cost, it's all up for evaluation, and there's just a lot of resources. So definitely I encourage you, if you have projects that you're working on now or things you're considering, connect with your local MEP center, and IRC MEP, kind of interchangeable a little bit there. And leading to, we have also funding available. We have 70 technical assistance mini grants available across Pennsylvania. Again, these are all under Smart PA. They need to be related to smart manufacturing in some fashion, and that you can work with your local IRC center to figure out the best way to scope that. And again, this can be either for IRC services or third-party services. The key thing there is it's really around the services portion. Hardware is typically not eligible, but what you're eligible to receive, reimbursement for up to $5,000 for 50% of eligible project costs. So just to put it simply, if you have a $10,000 services project that you're rolling out, you can get $5,000 back under this program. The only limitation is just one award per recipient. And one thing to keep in mind as well, if you're new to the mini grant concept, a lot of times people hear grants and they think proposals. We've already done that. That's how we have these funds. We already have these funds available. It's really as simple as an application that you complete with your local IRC, and provided the project meets the requirements and that you as a manufacturer meet the requirements, that you'll see the eligible project cost is a link to the grant guidelines, and you can find more out there, or like I say, just reach out to your local IRC center and we'll certainly work with you. It's our job to find homes for this funding. So that's what we want to do. And so now with that, we want to take a little time to touch on the workforce training that's available. And for that, I'd like to hand it over to my colleague, Sherry McCleary at Digital Foundry. You with us, Sherry?
I am. Good afternoon,
Okay.
everybody. Thank you for the intro, Matt. So we are part of Penn State University, but sit as sort of a separate entity and a unique center that is focused on specifically smart manufacturing. So this is a great fit with what we do, being involved in this statewide program. What we are all about is delivering education and industry assistance to drive economic growth. You see, our vision there is to improve lives and strengthen businesses through access to digital technologies, and we do that primarily through two things: education and training, and technical assistance to manufacturers. We are also very closely connected with SESME, who's been mentioned by Matt a couple of times. We are one of their 4 smart manufacturing innovation centers recognized nationwide. And myself and our staff all come with decades of experience of deploying these technologies in manufacturing environments globally, as well as not only the technology itself, but managing through the transformation, implementation of change, when and how to invest in technology. So we bring that very pragmatic perspective around the technology and how to integrate it to your organization effectively. All of our training that we will be basing what we have through this grant on has been approved, endorsed through industry organizations, Penn State educational boards, the university, Penn State University, so that those trainings can be recognized for assistance, for funding, for certifications, and our training spans from entry level to advanced content. So what we will be providing under the Smart PA is going to be pulling from some of our existing approved content that we use in our longer workshops that we have in person here at the Digital Foundry. And we will start with some online lunch and learn introduction to smart manufacturing that will be coming up soon in this quarter. And that will be based on some of the introductory content that we do for our level 3 training for engineers and managers and decision makers. But it's really a good introduction to smart manufacturing for just about anyone. We will also be giving access to some of the Digital Foundry content that will be rolled out as in-person workshops that we will be conducting at 5 Penn State locations across Pennsylvania. We looked at where the highest concentration of industry and employment in manufacturing resides, and it's in the 4 corners of the state as well as Harrisburg. So we will be leveraging some of our 20 plus campuses across the state to bring these workshops to a broad audience in the manufacturing environment. And those trainings will include looking at some of the building blocks of smart manufacturing based on industry standards. And it will be providing some hands-on demonstration and applications for industry use cases, following on with many of the things that were touched on earlier by Sean and Matt, giving you some firsthand look at how those technologies would be applied to use cases and really getting people's wheels turning about how and where you might start within your own environments. So stay tuned. We hope to be rolling those workshops out by the middle of this year. And in the meantime, having some of those online virtual introductory trainings to give you exposure before and ahead of those workshops.
Thank you, Sherry. It's lots of very exciting developments that are coming with Digital Foundry, and we're all looking forward to spreading the word. And so that'll certainly be forthcoming to get some more information on that. So thank you, Sherry. Okay, now let's just shift gears back a little bit. We've kind of gone through the basics of the program. We hit the foundations of smart manufacturing. We want to bring it back together to just cover a few use cases. And the first one we're going to start with here, this is a Catalyst Connection client. a group called Cobalt. They make instrumentation and sensors, things of that nature, flow meters. You see a couple examples of their products down below. But the primary challenge that they were having is this pretty extensive turnover in their assembly areas and just the length of time it takes to get someone up to speed when they have a new hire. And so what was done, Cobalt engaged with the Catalyst Connection third party, Rewinder, which is a company focused on digitizing work instructions. And so this makes they have an easy to use platform to create work instructions, to modify them, to have really a two-way communication with your production staff. And so what this ended up and what this provided, essentially their on-the-job training was reduced from typically 4 days to 4 hours because of the effectiveness of the system and how easy it was to use these work instructions. They just really were able to ramp up getting someone up to speed and up to full production. And so this is a simple example, and this goes to highlight some of what Sean was talking about, where training is a really big opportunity. We've also seen a number of manufacturers starting to get engaged with augmented reality when it comes to training. So really, when we say there's no, I'd say, limits to where smart manufacturing can provide benefits to your operation, that's most certainly the case. And so now I'd like to hand it over to another colleague, this time Don Bolton with Mantech, to tell us about another smart manufacturing case study.
Thanks, Matt, and thanks, Sean. So my name is Don Bolton. I work for Mantech. Mantech covers the south central region of Pennsylvania, out towards Harrisburg, Lancaster, out towards Shippensburg, and so on. So my case study is a company that we work closely with and have for many years. Flexcell, they are a CNC machine shop located in Lancaster, ISO certified for medical device. They're very familiar with automation, going so far as to build their own CNC tool changers and stuff like that. So they really like to tinker with it. However, they were looking for a way to bolster their R&D for new jobs and incoming jobs. So we started to source some vendors for that. They use primarily URs, so we were looking for a UR cell that was adaptable. So we were letting the process go as I was there for a CMMC project, DoD cybersecurity, working with them on that. I got a call from another vendor that was trying to sell some of their demo robots. So Len and I talked. We ended up, because Mantech was such a good partner between the two companies, we got them a good deal, as well as making sure that the company selling them received a fair price. So we acquired the UR robots, and then we went through and mapped out their cell, and they ended up building it themselves. So they purchased the robot for their R&D, and it's really flourished. It's helped them decide what jobs to bid on, because now they can take a single part without taking down a machine. They can take a single part, put it over in their R&D workstation, see how the robot interacts, see how it interacts with its other CNC machines and processes. So it wasn't Mantech in at the start, but we really helped at the back end is bringing that connection. So.
Well, thank you very much, Don. And I think that really highlights one of the big benefits of engaging with the MEP network. And across Pennsylvania, all the centers are no different. That they're really just a great resource for you, even if it's not directly coming from the center. The connections, as Don had a connection he was able to make for the manufacturer. That's our objective at the end of the day, is your success. And so it really encourage you to, anytime you have any issue, we may not have the solution, but chances are we may know someone who does.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Absolutely. And
Thanks,
if
Don.
I wasn't there at that exact time, it may not have gone through. So definitely engage the MEP partners. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Shane, or I'm sorry. Yeah, Shane, not Sean.
You got it right.
Yeah, Shane Cantrell with the Northwest Industrial Resource Center up in northwestern Pennsylvania, the top 13 counties in the northwestern part of the state. And we recently had a manufacturer in our area reach out to us. They had interest in exploring automation. So we did a free assessment and discovered several different areas of opportunity, but they ended up narrowing it down to one area, specifically in their warehouse, that they have a brand new warehouse with a lot of material handling. I don't know how many of you guys have been in manufacturing plants, but they often have a lot of forklifts, and this place is no stranger to forklifts. They have them running all over the place. As Sean was mentioning earlier, there's a lot of safety factors they need to consider with forklifts. There's a lot of non-value added activities with running these forklifts around to transport product. So they wanted to explore reducing some of the material handling challenges using automation. So we've been currently in this project right now evaluating automation integrators for them. So we did a lot of homework on the front end to make sure we took pictures, videos, got product drawings, got a lot of the other layouts and all that stuff sent over to integrators after obviously having a non-disclosure agreement in place to make sure that that information was confidential. But we had 5 different integrators through our network that we have through the MEP system that we've been able to provide different options. So if you could show these pictures off to the side. Thank you, Matt. There's one tug system here, for example, where it's an AGV with several different tugs that they can put multiple different products on one side. So you can see even on the other, there's one with conveyors, automated conveyors that can move product off onto a different station. Another one that they have different automated types of pull tug systems. Then you can also go with an AMR, which is more of a flat system that brings it up to a platform.
Object.
And then there's also another option here where you can have different kinds of carts with where you can have bins and et cetera to be able to unload onto. And then the last one is an automated forklift option to be able to be a little bit more flexible in how they reach parts and be able to pick and drop them as well. So this is still in process right now, and there's over 400 employees at this current manufacturing location that they have, 4 different locations. And they're trying to, their industry that they're serving is industrial fabrication, assembly, and finishing for OEMs. So this has been a very helpful process for them to discover different types of systems. Not all automation integrators are the same. They all have different types of solutions. So it's helpful to go to your MEP center. I'd suggest that you reach out to your MEP center to see and evaluate without being sold a bill of goods as a salesperson, right? You have a lot of these integrators there wanting to sell their products, which that's what they're trying to do. But if you can have us come alongside to help you to evaluate them, we even went through a whole exercise with the spreadsheet and evaluating different categories to make sure that they are making an informed decision. So if you guys have anything to add to this, I just think it's a very important process to make sure that you evaluate integrators to see if they're helpful for you.
Yeah, real quick, Shane. I think that's great, and I think that a big point to drive home here is that we are non-biased. Any recommendations, evaluations that we're doing for you is non-biased, right? We all have our partnerships, and we learn from those partnerships of who's good and who's bad. So our jobs are to be non-biased, to pick somebody who's going to work for you and not just drop somebody on you and say, here, go run with your project. So
Yeah,
Great.
that's exactly right. And any of these case studies, these are just a handful of examples, but we work together as a group, albeit we're 7 individual or 7 separate organizations. We all collaborate and work together regularly. And if there's services that one provides that maybe others don't, or we share content, and so really anything that any of us is talking about, you can be able to receive that regardless where you're located across Pennsylvania. Including, we have trainings that, maybe some of this work, you do have the bandwidth to go out and research integrators and do that kind of work. But we also have some tools that you might be able to leverage with some training that we have available, and to help you understand that landscape of integrators, of providers that Shane was talking about. That can be a little bit confusing when you're first getting into it. whether it's a distributor, a system integrator, or an OEM, or otherwise. So lots of just at the end, lots of great resources that that we're here to provide for you. So thank you, Shane, for providing that case study. And now just to wrap things up, we've kind of covered the foundational pieces of smart manufacturing, really what's in it, what benefits can it provide to you, talked about our program, and then wrapped it up with some case studies. And if we've got you interested now, well, okay, well, how do I get started? What do I do? Well, the first step is completing our online assessment. And just to note, these slides will be provided. So all the links and stuff that you see, you'll have access to, and you'll be able to just click to get that easily. And so completing the assessment, feel free to reach out to your local MEP center if you already know who that is. If you don't, reach out to, myself. I'm happy to direct you. And then also by completing the online assessment, we're still working on automating the process, but your information will make it to your appropriate center and they'll be able to follow up as well. And once you're in touch, schedule an on-site meeting to discuss your opportunities and, just let the process go from there. And then of course, you'll start to see digital discovery, webinars. That's our reoccurring webinar series. And we also have a number of these webinars that are available on demand. Just like this one will be recorded as well and made available. So with that, I do want to leave you with some contact information. If you know, just essentially it's by county across the state, so you can see who your appropriate contact would be. So you're able to reach out directly if you like. And as I mentioned, if you have any questions, high level or otherwise, or you're just not sure, maybe you have multiple locations, feel free to reach out to myself. I'm Matt Menner with Catalyst Connection. So you've got these, and each of these, each of the boxes here are all hot links, so you can email us directly or feel free to call those that have numbers listed. So with that, we'd like to take any other questions. I know we'll look to see if there's anything in the chat. And feel free, if you have a question, to unmute yourself to chime in. We'd love to talk with you. So thank you for your attendance today, and look forward to working more with everyone.
And thank you, Matt, for setting this all up.
Absolutely. So let's see. Yeah, I think everyone's able to unmute if anyone has any questions. So feel free, or we can just hang out for a couple minutes. That's up to everyone.
Yeah.
I had a question. How many of those grants are available?
There are 70 across the whole Commonwealth, and so loosely we'll have 10 for each center, but that's all variable depending. We'll utilize all 70 one way or another, and because I didn't mention, the program currently runs through April of 2026. So we've got about year and a quarter or so left, give or take, but we'll make sure to use everything. If we still have resources available at the end, chances are the program could extend, but 70 is the top level number. Thanks for asking, Bill. Okay, any other questions?
No.
Okay, well, no need to keep long. Well, let's see, is there anything in the chat here? Just make sure.
I will say I don't know much about too many of my other colleagues, their pillars, workforce and process improvement, that do this sort of thing where the heads of the departments, the heads of the technologies get together on a monthly basis. We discuss what we're working on. We're discussing tools that work. So I think that's a huge benefit. I know I've gone out Allentown and done work for other centers. I know I'm having Sean out here in the March, April timeframe. So this collaboration, I think, is very beneficial to our clients, to us, and to the rest of our teams looking for answers on things that might not be in our area.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Don, and I totally agree with the close collaboration we have here in Pennsylvania. And it really extends beyond, because there's a nationwide network that meets in a similar fashion. So you really have the power of the whole MEP network across the country. So there's just great resources to reach out to. So we just encourage you to take advantage of them. That they're here for your use. And if you're unsure if it applies, just ask. Or if you're looking to do something, you don't know where to start, just pick up the phone. We're happy to help, to bounce ideas off, or to just point you in the right direction if it's not something that we can directly help with. So, well, all right. Well, thank you everyone for attending this afternoon, and thank you, Sean, for co-hosting with me, and likewise
Yeah, no, thank you
to
for the
Shane.
opportunity, Matt. Yeah.
Thanks to Shane, Don, and Sherry for their support. And we'll look forward to connecting with many of you, and look forward to it. All right, we'll call it good for there. Thanks everyone, and have a great afternoon. And keep a lookout for the links in the slides. Take care.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, guys.